Welcome back to day 14 of the 100 Horror Films in 31 Days, and I got in 4 films. I'm well over 50 films. I'll recap kind of where I'm at halfway through the month tomorrow. But let's get into what I watched here. First up, 1935's Mark of the Vampire. Bela Lugosi returns as the vampire, not necessarily Dracula. He returns as a vampire. Uh, this is a creepy old house movie with a twist ending, and the ending I don't like. I just don't like the twist in it. Todd Browning, though, I mean, he directed this. He certainly has a feel for a gothic horror, moody, atmospheric horror. On the flip side, he also can come across as very static and flat, and I think this film tends to do that. It's not a good watch. I mean, I grew up with this film. I've seen it multiple times, but I think the twist ending just kind of makes it, I don't know, pointless almost. Bela Lugosi doesn't have a whole lot to do in this either. That's the other problem with it. He kind of lurches around in a threatening posture, but he really kind of takes second stage to the female vampire, I think, to some extent. And he's kind of walking around with an unexplainable bullet hole in the side of his head. It's very strange. Anyway, I don't think this film held up very well, and I give it a 6 out of 10. One other thing, someone commented yesterday, I believe, on this Legends of Horror set, DVD set, that there's a lot of freezing going on. He's absolutely correct. And I found that occurring with a lot of the old Warner DVDs, including the Warner Archives, the Gangster Collection with Jamie Cagney. I mean, those freeze up. Some of them you just can't even watch because they freeze up. So I don't know what's causing that, but almost every disc in this set, the first film will play, and sometimes it'll freeze too, and then the second won't play at all. It'll just freeze. I haven't tried multiple. I've got multiple Blu-ray players. I haven't tried others to see if I could get the second film to play, but I don't know what's going on with it. It's just time to upgrade, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, 1994. Next up, 1994 is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, with Robert De Niro picking up the mantle. This is probably the most faithful adaptation to Frankenstein that I've ever seen. Kind of maybe short of the made-for-TV Frankenstein, which Scream Factory had a release for. I think the problem with this, Kenneth Branagh was starring as the Doctor Victor Frankenstein and directed it. Maybe he had too much to do. I think this film is too ambitious for its own good. I think it's trying to do too much. It's trying to be too faithful to the book, as well as being kind of an action-y horror movie. More action-y than horror. But I like it. I think it's okay. It's just lacking in something. At the end of the day, I think it's just there's just so much going on. It just ends up not being a memorable film for some reason. But I can't really put my finger on exactly why. I think everybody puts in a great performance, maybe a good, adequate performance, not a great performance. I know there's a lot of from a dialogue perspective, they're either screaming or whispering, and then in the midst of that, there's a lot of action. So it's probably a little bit too actiony for my taste for a Frankenstein Gothic story, but I think it's still there's a lot of things to be said that make this. There's a lot to be said for making this being a very good and authentic retelling of the book. This does not have any special features, unfortunately. It's just the film. But yeah, I'm gonna clock this one in at 6.5, 7 out of 10. Next up, a film I've never seen before, and it's a Vincent Price film, The Mad Magician. This is a Twilight Time release, 1954. This is a 3D Mad Magician. Vincent Price plays a magician, and the magician gets screwed over by a former boss, and he goes nuts, and this basically turns into a straight up revenge story, which, Vincent Price, even in, I think this was 1954, you could tell he was a star. I mean, when he's on the screen, he's got your attention. He's macabre when he needs to be. He's polished and when he needs to be. I mean, he's just got it all. Vincent Price had it all, even in the early '50s. Very good film. Very entertaining. Quick watch too, like 75 minutes. I give it a 7 out of 10. There's an audio commentary. I haven't checked that out yet, and a booklet. And then I wrapped up the day with the #1 slasher film of all time. And how do I know that? Well, it's just my opinion. 1974 is Black Christmas. I think this is the greatest slasher film, closely followed by Psycho. I like the atmosphere of this slightly better than Hitchcock's Psycho. So if you put a gun to my head, I'm going to say this is #1 slasher film of all time. Psycho is closely followed by Psycho #2, Halloween #3. I'm going to do a video at some point of the top 30 slasher films of all time. I don't necessarily think it's fair to make this distinction between 80s slashers and quote proto slashers. If it's a slasher, it's a slasher. And I just don't think that's fair, or to you put these proto slashers like Bay of Blood in a proto slasher box, which excludes them from consideration as the best slashers of all time because they're proto slashers. What is that? That doesn't make any sense. That's like saying I'm going to rate all of the Dracula films after Hammers. Hammers being a proto Dracula. Oh, I mean, to me, you're excluding the best ones. I mean, so yeah, this is, to me, whether you want to call this a proto slasher or just slasher, this along with Psycho is the best, and Halloween's #3. I mean, that just is what it is. And there's, to some extent, it's because this came first. And there's an element of we're copying what came before, whether you're talking about Halloween or Silent Night, Deadly Night. I mean, you are to some extent penalizing. I guess I'm not being entirely fair to Halloween or the 80s slashers in that I'm penalizing them slightly for not being first to the plate with the concept. But yeah, it's an opinion, and opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. So, and fair, there's nothing fair in life either. So it's not fair, and it is an opinion. My opinion is this is the best slasher ever, and Psycho's #2, and Halloween's 3. Why do I like this? I think this is technically a masterpiece. It captures the claustrophobic nature, the setting, the winter setting. The acting is fantastic. I think Margot Kidder is fantastic in this. The killer is awesome. The way the killer is presented is awesome, and the kills are so memorable. I mean, the glass horse, the glass unicorn kill. I mean, who doesn't remember that? It's just, and the ending is so perfect. It's just so perfect. It's a 10 out of 10, and I don't give out 10 out of 10s. This is the Canadian Season's Greetings release. I don't have the Scream Factor. I'm satisfied with this. This thing is chock full of It's a great print and it's chock full of special features. So I'm quite content with what I got there. Okay, well, if you have any other thoughts or concerns about the video as far as the slasher, my opinions on the slasher, or any of the other films, feel free to leave comments below. Appreciate you watching.